Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on who you are. My name is Sergeant Alexander. I'm a 12 Bravo combat engineer here at BLC, and I will be your instructor for this block of instruction. Right now, I would like to start with the safety brief. If we have any fires from any opposite side, please exit to the appropriate side. If there is a shooter, massive shooter, then we will do the run, hide, fight method. Please, if there are any containers, monster drinks, or anything like that of the sort, I just ask that you guys keep them closed or keep them away from the computers. And also be careful, as we also have weapons here for tripping hazards. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about accountability and the leadership, integrity, honor, and duty. Introduction. Define and establish an accountability and the leadership consists of in the United States Army. I will also establish how to keep leadership accountable in every aspect of the Army. And lastly, I will establish integrity, honor, and duty, and the role they play in accountability. Let's get going. Learning objective. Action. Demonstrate the importance of accountability for Army leadership and subordinates. Condition. Learner will develop awareness about accountability and the importance of leadership. Standard. A brief overview on Army values, accountability, and leadership. Accountability and leadership. Before we can go any farther, I think it's appropriate for us to define what accountability is and what leadership is. The definition of accountability is the fact or condition of being accountable and responsibility. Definition of leadership, the act of leading a group of people or organization, the state or position of being a leader. What makes an Army leader accountable? We have heard from different representatives that have gotten up to here that have talked about the Army values. So I'm not going to harp too quickly, but I would like to have a brief overview. That would be loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage, i.e. leadership. Today I would like to hyper-focus on three of them: integrity, honor, and duty. And I also think it's important to define those as well. Integrity, the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, moral uprightness. Honor, high respect, great esteem, adherence to what is right or to a conventional standard or conduct. Duty, a moral or legal obligation, a responsibility, a task or action that someone is required to perform. I'm going to start with integrity. George Washington said it best. Without virtue and without integrity, the finest talents and the most brilliant accomplishments can never gain the respect and conceal the esteem of truly valuable parts of mankind. If a leader does not hold integrity as a value near to them, then squads, platoons, companies will follow suit, and attitude will affect the moral and cause soldiers to follow suit in a negative form. If integrity in a leader is not exemplified, missions will not be accomplished, training will not be conducted, payments will not be distributed. When a leader makes the sacrifice to put their soldiers before themselves, accountability can flourish. And the very influence of the leader can carry on to the squads, platoons, companies, or battalions. When a leader's influence is negative, the morale of the squads, platoons, company, and battalions are set up for failure. The way that I liken this is an example in my own entire life. We can all talk about that one leader that failed us. I had such a leader that failed me when I was working S1. She had brought me under her wing. She said she would train me, and she said that she had my back. Unfortunately, when I had failed one of the missions that she had for me to do a training and understanding, not only did that leader not do what she said, but she belittled me with other leaders around her. And I found out from some of her subordinates. For me, that wasn't motivation to not become a good leader. That was more motivation for me to have integrity, where she didn't. Now I'm going to move forward to honor. A leader must carry honor everywhere they go to ensure that the soldiers are following and respect their values. Without the soldiers' respect, the leader cannot obtain the access to develop a successful squad, platoon, company, or battalion once again. Honor must be instilled from the President of the United States to the private in the squad. This means that leaders must keep a close watch on if articles, rules, ACFT, and much more are being facilitated properly. With the accountability of honor in place, the respect will follow. Once this is in place, civilians will see what the military is doing as something to model, thus following suit and pursuing their own model of what honor is. I liken this to the ACFT. I believe someone had talked about it earlier. If we have standards in the ACFT, there are rules that must be adhered to. If there is no rules and there are no respect followed by that, then everybody will be able to pass the ACFT. Thus, that honor and that respect will not remain. That is what the Army is built about. And finally, my favorite, duty. Duty is an important part of accountability for leadership in the sense that the United States Army is built on performance, academics, and planning. Performance is a component of duty. The Army runs on producing soldiers and giving them an MOS. Once a soldier is given an MOS, that soldier is trained, tested, and given guidance on their deficiencies they need to improve on. This combines into accountability for the soldier being ready for a proficient to do their duty. This affords the opportunity for the soldier to uphold the standard of readiness amongst their peers and subordinates, increase the ranks in positive way, and show the accountability is essential to the United States Army. When duty is abused, and misrepresented by leadership, this creates a culture of turmoil that breeds a negative influence for their subordinates and peers. I liken duty to my actual MOS. My job as an Army 12 Bravo combat engineer is to do mine detecting, also to breach using explosives, and also identify IEDs. If I were on a mission and I were to be deployed, and they said, Alexander, we're going to need you to take your squad out and you guys are going to be doing some mine detecting. I already know the risks with my MOS and job, but what if I were to say, you know what? As a sergeant, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do my duty. We are built upon duty. That is our job. That is our mission. If leaders aren't held to their duty and their accountability, then where is that standard for those leaders and that accountability? I charge y'all today, before I finish, everyone from my rank and up, that we should have our duty and honor and integrity. My last example is an example that is a sad one, but it's not to end on a bad note, yet it is an example of how accountability, if not taken seriously, can fall and make the Army and the standards a failure. If you've never heard of Vanessa Gillian, a 20-year-old United States Army soldier at Fort Hood, she was bludgeoned to death on April 22, 2020. The family, what she went missing, the family was asking where she was. Unfortunately, the leadership did not know where she was. And then what made it worse was that when they did find out, we found out in further investigation that the leadership knew where she was and they were trying to cover it up. I will say to this day, without getting too passionate, that was not accountability. That was not integrity. That was not honor. And that definitely sure was not duty. She deserved more. Thus, for us, we must, after BLC, give her more, and other people more, and civilians more. In us, we must maintain the act of integrity, honor, and duty, thus including some kind of accountability and a new standard for the Army. I want to leave with this. A genuine leader is not a searcher for consensus, but a molder of consensus. Martin Luther King Jr. We must do better. We can do better. Integrity, honor, and duty make up a strong component of accountability and leadership. Leadership means to have accountability and to maintain all Army values to the core. In summary, accountability and the leadership is imperative for all positions in the Army. Integrity, honor, and duty. Without accountability, there will be no efficient leadership. Do I have any questions? This concludes my presentation. Thank you, and create a good day.
Good morning, class. My name is Sergeant Austin, and I'll be your presenter for my topic on leader attributes. My topic is unclassified, so please feel free to take pictures, notes. I put some guided notes on your desk, so feel free to write down or jot any notes you would like. Our overall risk assessment is low. Please watch out for any trip hazard, your weapon. There are cables on the floor. If you have any open drink, please make sure it's covered, has a lid. We have a lot of electronic devices. We don't want to destroy them. In case of an active shooter, please, we will use method run, fight, hide. In case of a fire, you will run in the opposite direction of the fire or the nearest exit. We have two exits, one in the classroom and one on the west side, and then we have another exit on the other side, and then we rally in the parking lot. My agenda for today is introduction, leader attribute, which is character, presence, and intellect. And then I'll go to my conclusion, and I'll take your questions at the end of my presentation. Everything in my presentation is in accordance with ADP 6-22, Army Leadership and the Profession. So my introduction is, when I first started working for the Army in Iraq, 2004, I was right out of college, and I said to myself, why some leaders are better than others? What makes a leader a great leader? Is it because they are born leaders? Or is it something I can learn, we can all learn to be? Well, fast forward years after, I'm here in BLC, and I learned something called LRM, Leadership Requirement Model. In leadership requirement model, you notice that there are two parts. Competencies, which is what a leader should do or can do for their soldiers. And then you see the attributes. Attribute is what you can become for your soldiers or what you know. And that's my topic for today, leader attributes. The purpose of my presentation is to educate you about leader attributes. Before I dive into leader attributes, I would like to define what a leadership is. Leadership is the activity of influencing people by providing purpose, direction, and motivation to accomplish mission and to improve the organization. Remember, we are leaders. We influence and lead our soldiers, and we can create the next generation of leadership. Leader attributes are characteristics internal to your leader, to the leader. Think of it as your personality trait when you go to a job interview, but in the Army context. So leader attribute is what your adjectives, who you are as a soldier, as a leader. Like I said, not everybody is born as a leader, so LRM, or leader attributes, is what will help you build that leadership personality. Leader attributes are, again, you need to have strong character, solid presence, and keen intellect. Let's go ahead and dive into the first attribute, which is character. First, character. I would like to start with a quote from General Farrell in his book on What Makes a Good Leader from 2016. He said in his book, character is often demonstrated in how closely our actions, ethics, decisions, and relationships adhere to Army ethics and values. Notice he said Army ethics and values. Character has Army values, warrior ethos, empathy, discipline, and humility. When you go to basic training, the first thing they teach you, Army values. We all know leadership, loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. The reason they teach you this in basic, especially on day one, that's what I saw in my basic, is because the Army emphasized leadership from day one. They consider every soldier is a leader, or at least they will become a leader. So the Army believed that we all will become leaders. And that's why we get taught Army values in the very beginning of basic. The next part in character is warrior ethos. We remember from the Soldier's Creed, Warrior ethos, I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I'll never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade. That comrade could be your soldier. So don't leave them behind. It is important for us as leaders not to leave any comrades behind. And that's what builds a character. Next in character is empathy. Is the ability to understand and respect others. When a leader has empathy, it makes their soldiers feel valued and heard. Soldiers will not hesitate to approach their leader, especially when they know that leader listened to them, took the time out of their day to listen to them. And that soldier know there is somebody they can rely on, someone they can go and talk to. Next within character is discipline. Discipline is doing the right thing when no one is watching, even when you're by yourself. It's a mentality, it's a mindset of discipline. You set yourself to high standards, even when you're alone. And when soldiers realize you have a character, with all what it entails to have a character, they will not only strive to live the standard, they'll strive to be you one day. You can become the example. Granted, I agree, you may say, I'm not perfect, but if you become the standard, you set the highest standard to yourself, your soldiers will look up to you because of that character from your leadership attributes. Next, I'll move on to presence, the second attribute. Presence is how others perceive you as a leader based on appearance, demeanor, actions, and words. It is simply how you present yourself to your soldiers. Within presence, we have military bearing, fitness, confidence, and resilience. Military bearing is conducting oneself in a professional manner to bring credit upon yourself and the army at all times. It is the ability to project commanding presence and confidence. Next within presence is fitness, the ability for sound health, strength, and endurance to support health emotionally and physically. And next is confidence. Confidence is projecting self-confidence and being certain in your unit ability to succeed in its mission. Last but not least, within presence is resilience. Resilience is the capacity to recover. When you fall down, setback, you get a bad grade, anytime in life you fall down, the ability to get back up and move on. And not only just move on, learn from the mistake and make it better. A successful leader is someone that learns from their mistake. Most great leaders in the world, countless examples, they are not great because they did everything right, because they learned from their mistake. They are resilient. Unfortunately, sometimes we all know in our units as leaders or as followers, sometimes we lose trust. It's because we don't project enough resiliency. As leaders, our job is to show our soldiers they should not give up. They need to have enough resiliency to go through hard times. Hard times will come, but what will make us successful as a U.S. Army is being resilient. And then that concludes presence, and I'm going to move on to the last attribute, which is intellect, one of my favorites. Intellect means leaders who can easily comprehend challenging problems and who are able to lead mission to task to accomplish mission. Intellect include mental agility, being able to adapt to new arising situations. In the Army, we always have to adapt to changes. Give you a simple example. Right now, we have the APFT switching to the ACFT. Now it's in effect. If I don't have mental agility, or we as leaders don't have the mental agility to change, we will be stuck in one mentality. Having mental agility is be able to adapt to new standards and able to teach your soldiers that they need to become the new standard and able to think out of the box. Next within intellect is judgment, being able to have a sound judgment and evaluate situation to draw conclusions as necessary. Innovation is coming up with new ideas. Interpersonal tact, simply having people skill, being able to communicate with other people. A simple example I can give you about interpersonal tact is when you go to basic training, you see people from different backgrounds, people from other countries, people from other religions, they all go to one place. Those soldiers you saw in your basic training are the soldiers with you today, and the soldiers will be next to you tomorrow or next year. Those are the soldiers who might become your leader and might be your subordinates. It is very important to have interpersonal tact with your soldiers so you can deal with different people in different backgrounds. And the Army is all about teamwork. And we need interpersonal tact to work as a team, especially as leader. We need to have that feature so our soldiers can succeed. And that concludes intellect. I'm going to transition to my conclusion. In my presentation, I discussed what a leader attribute is: character, presence, and intellect. I talked about character. It's a mental and moral quality distinctive to a leader. Talked about the presence, is how others perceive you. I talked about intellect, being able to work with other people and work through challenging problems. And let's not forget, attribute plus competencies equal LRM, Leadership Requirement Model. Are there any questions? All right, I'm the last presenter. Thank you very much. I appreciate you listening, and you're released to your SGLs. Thank you.